my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop, and I have a mandolin to set up this morning. It's from a good friend in the local area. In fact, he's one of the bluegrass legends in the Missouri, southern Missouri local area. His name is JD Fritchie, and he's been playing mandolin for many years. He played with different local groups. One of them would be the Bluegrass Five with Harold Rowden. I believe that was the name they had. It was something with five in it. I think it was Bluegrass Five. I could be wrong on that. That was quite a few years ago. He is presently one of the members, I guess you'd say, and perhaps even one of the leaders of the bluegrass group Clifty Creek. They play a few shows now. They're older fellers at this point, and they don't play a lot, but I respect JD a lot. He's a good friend, and I've learned a lot from him over the years, maybe even just how to be nice to people, you know, because he's such a nice fellow. Here's his mandolin. We're going to get it out here. It's a Kentucky. And guess what? It's got a RSW antler saddle on it. I gotta be honest, I didn't recommend one of these to JD for a long time because I know JD is a real traditionalist. And trust me, I'm not saying anything wrong with that because I like traditional too. I'm kind of in the middle on a lot of this stuff. I like the traditional and I like some of the progressive. I honestly don't like what they're doing to bluegrass today. Maybe it's just a generational thing, you know. But JD, you would consider him a very traditional type bluegrass musician. Back in the Bill Monroe era, you know, Flat and Scruggs type thing. So that would be the way JD prefers his music, and I have nothing but respect for that. So that was the reason I wasn't too sure about recommending the antler saddle to him. The traditionalists seem to have a little more trouble moving away from their ebony bridge, you know. But one day he was in the shop and he was talking about the mandolin, and I said, well, JD, I don't know, I've hesitated mentioning this to you, but I would suggest you try one of my antler saddles. I said, I think you'll find that it really does, you know, give you more volume and clarity, and I think you'll like what it does to your mandolin. I said, I also think you might want to try the silk and steel strings. When he gave me this mandolin to bring home the other night, we were at a jam session when I saw him. He said, boy, I love that antler saddle. He says, I tell everybody about it. And he says, I want you to put some more of those silk and steel strings back on the mandolin too, because it looks like he's got a phosphor bronze set on here. I don't know if they're Diodario or GHS. It's hard to tell the difference until you get the ends off down here. Well, actually, even that on a mandolin, it's pretty hard to tell because they don't have the different colors on the mandolin like they do on the guitar. So we're gonna just do a quick setup on this, and we'll look it over, see if it needs anything, and maybe before I start, I'll play it a little bit just to see what it sounds like. I think we'll play a little bit of Right On by Bill Monroe. It's played in the key of F. It's one of the few instrumentals I know of played in the key of F. So you can hear the mandolin there. Sounds pretty good. Just looking at it, and you know, my first impression, the bridge is leaning a little forward there, you can probably see. That's pretty typical of mandolins. So you want to try to always keep that bridge just as straight up and down as you can. That helps with your volume and tone and everything too. But not only that, but they will eventually just, you know, fall over too if you're not careful. The reason they do that is all the tightening is from this end, so everything's always pulling this way. And especially when you first string it up and tighten the strings, it really pulls it. So at the very beginning, especially when you first put on new strings, you want to always be really sure and keep that bridge straightened back up. And they'll all do it. It's not just this mandolin, it's every mandolin. They all do this. So you need to really pay attention to it, especially if you're a new mandolin player, and learn how to keep that bridge as straight up and down as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and take the strings off this. I won't film all this part, and I'll show you what the next step is. When I get the strings off of a mandolin like this, the first thing I do is hold it up and look down it, see what I can see that way. I'll put the light here so I can see a little better. It looks pretty flat. There could be just a teeny bit of underbow in it. So let's just try to check that a little closer. I'll just put a straight edge like this. You know, some people get the very expensive straight edges because they're within a thousandth or two, and for my money this is close enough. You know, so you can see how it's sitting here and sitting here, and the center there is flexing a little bit. It's not flexing very much. In fact, I can feel it hitting in places, but it's flexing right there in the very center especially. So the first thing I'm going to do is just test and see if the truss rod is tight enough. It's probably tight, but it never hurts to check it. So we'll see if it'll go a little bit more snug, and I think that might fix our problem if it will. Yeah, it wasn't real crazy tight, I could feel. So I'm just going to tighten it a little bit there. I'm looking down it from the other end. It's looking pretty flat, actually. Let me look down it from this end. Maybe just a tiny, tiny bit. That's really kind of taking it out of there. I don't feel it flexing now. It's kind of scratching all the way. Now, because it's that close, that doesn't mean it's perfect. That just means it's close. We'll do one more thing here to get it a little bit better than that yet. That did seem to fix the majority of it, and in fact I think you could string it up and probably play it just fine like it is. But I do see some string grooves in here, so let's just very lightly take my file. And I always like to just rub it over there first. I feel it grab just the teeniest bit on the edges, not in the middle. It doesn't seem to grab in the middle. It's grabbing a little bit on the edges, so right in through here especially there's a little bit of a high spot. I'm not pressing very hard, by the way. I let the file do the work, and I keep the file moving side to side so that I don't get, any flat spots. I don't want to create a problem, in other words. So you keep the file moving the whole time, side to side, forwards, backwards. That feels really good now. It's gliding everywhere. I can still see a teeny bit of a groove in here, so I'm going to give it just a little bit more. It doesn't take a lot. There you go. That looks pretty darn good to me. I'm looking for grooves. I don't think I see any more grooves. A little bit right there. All right, now I'm just going to go along the ends at like a 45. And then I kind of round it like this. As you can see, I'm just kind of rocking it. That feels real nice. Then we'll get out the actual fret recrowning file. Okay, I've got the narrow fret file here. Just looking for my close-up specs. Didn't need these a couple of years back. Things change. I rock this as I do it. I'm not trying to take anything off the top, you understand. I'm just trying to round the frets off. And another thing is, it's good to take this and do the ends like this, because that will knock off any burrs that are right on the ends.
You won't find it on a well-traveled highway, not even on a dusty gravel road. And you have to want to be there when you find it, for it's not on any maps I know.
These are really tiny frets, and that's what I prefer. I feel like the mandolin is easier to play with small frets. I think they're very hard on my fingers when I have large frets.
Out across the field, through the pasture, climb along the steep and rocky trail.
I notice his binding is loose right in this area here, so we'll fix that in a second.
Across that little creek in the valley, you'll see that vine-covered church on the hill.
It looks like I scalloped out JD's area here on his fingerboard also, what that people call the Florida area. I scalloped that out apparently years ago. That looks pretty darn good. I'm going to get some 600 now. This is the one thing that I do, which is not the traditional method of doing it, but it works for me, and it's very quick, and it makes the frets look really polished. I take the 600 and I go this way rather than this way. Now the reason I do that, quite simply, is speed, and it works really fast this way. Keeps all the frets nice and level. It polishes them up where they just look like little mirrors. Some people say you're going to have lines going this way. You show me how with 600 sandpaper you're going to have lines going this way. There's no lines. It's slicker than snot on a doorknob, and it's over with that quick. You know, it's just as smooth and clean looking as it can be. The negative of it, of course, is that it dulls the fingerboard, as you can see. It makes it look kind of gray. But I never think of that as a negative, because if you look there, there's all kinds of fingernail marks and things in the fingerboard, and I'm going to flatten that out anyway. So to me, what it really does is it shows up all the flaws in the fingerboard, and now I can take at least some of those flaws out. May not get them all, depends on how deep they are. But I just take a single edge razor blade and work it back and forth like this. And there's kind of an art to this, because you can make the fretboard look really scratchy if you're not good with this, and you do need a new blade.
That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray, built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the grave.
Another advantage of doing this way is on frets that are really, used and have been filed a number of times, and I believe these are that way. This also gives you just a teeny bit more height on your fret. Not a lot, but every little bit helps, because you're barely taking off 1/1000th of an inch. I'm going to have to scold JD. He's going to have to keep his fingernails cut, because he does have some pretty good grooves in there that you can probably see. Just shows how skilled he is, because he's got grooves all the way up here.
The siding and shingles are tattered, the steeple leans slightly to the right, and though all the windows are shattered, you can still hear them singing at night. The brothers and sisters who worship gather in that holy place still, though they lie at rest in the valley beneath that vine-covered church on the hill.
What I usually do then is take a brush and brush back and forth like this to get anything off of there. I typically take the single edge blade and rub right against each fret like this. And that way, if there's anything that got smushed up against the fret wall, this gets it out of there. And I do this on both sides of each fret. And it does move a lot of stuff. You might be surprised how much stuff this actually rakes off. And I just turn it around and do it the exact same thing on the other side of the fret. And then we'll just give it one more dusting with the brush. It looks really nice. As I said, I can see the bindings loose right through here, so I'm going to put a little glue on that. Well, it just so happens one of my wonderful viewers, Mr. Regalbuto, sent me this brand new bottle of thin CA glue, super fast it says. It's a Starbond brand, so thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't think the tip of this is open. Nope, I don't think so. So I'll have to cut it open here. Can probably use my single edge razor blade to make that a nice clean cut. Trying to see where it opens to. It looks like it's about right there. Try to just cut the tip off, but I don't think the tip's gonna get it. I think it's got to go down further. I can see a hole. There's the hole. Try to leave it as tight of a hole as I can get there. But I'll go ahead and use a tip here because I'm trying to be, fairly clean on this. This helps you put it a little more precisely. Though this thin CA glue likes to run, and it runs pretty much everywhere.
That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray.
Cover up that section there and just spritz it very lightly with the accelerator there, and that should take care of that. Lastly, in that area where the glue is, I'll just clean up the fingerboard just a little bit more.
Built with their hands from the forest, now stands as a marker for the grain.
I think we're in good shape. Now we'll put on some oil on here, and in this case I'm using the Be Good oil again. Just put it on with our fingers is probably the quickest way. It's a oil and beeswax mixture, supposedly food safe, so I'm not too worried about using my fingers for this, and it's about as good as you can apply it anyway, unless you maybe used a brush or something.
That vine-covered church above the valley, where the congregation gathered to pray, built with their hands from the forest.
See if I see anything else that's loose. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was just this area. There was about 4 frets worth right there that was loose. Over the years, instruments need cleaning from time to time, and while I've got the strings off this one, I thought I'll just wipe it down. Now this is just a lightly damped shop towel. So I'm just wiping it down with warm water here and just rubbing it off, just cleaning it up a little bit, getting rid of any of the creeping crud that's there. And I'm going to do that all the way around here.
Now stands as a marker for the grain. It still stands as a marker for the grain.
Okay, now I'll just take a dry one and kind of polish that off, and you'd be surprised, these kinds of shop towels actually do kind of buff out your instrument. They really do a nice job. I can't recommend them enough myself. I think they're perfect for instruments. They're soft enough, they don't cause any damage, and they're just coarse enough to polish things. Be sure if you do use these kinds of shop towels, you get the ones that are not quilted. These are the smooth ones, and that's the one that works. The quilted ones don't work worth a hoot. Don't like them at all. Ask me how I know. I've tried them both. After using these for years, someone got me some quilted ones, and I tried them and instantly relegated those to the dark side to just sop up oil. You can see there, it almost looks like it's been waxed, you know. It really does brighten up the finish using these towels. I don't know exactly what's in them. People say there's clay in these and things that causes the buffing action. I don't know if that's true or not. Probably is. I've never taken time to look it up. What I usually do on an older finish, and this one's getting there, I wouldn't call it an old finish, but it's getting older, is I'll just take and sometimes wipe it down with boiled linseed oil. Wherever there's chips and things, this kind of helps the finish a little bit. There's not much on this one, but around these holes and the bridge area here, there's some little bit of chipping and scarring. And if you just wipe it down with boiled linseed oil, then it kind of seals the area a little bit. I don't think it really needs it anywhere except right here on the top, and this one didn't need it very much anyway. But you'll see a lot of the older instruments that are just really chipped up. I would recommend you wipe those down with boiled linseed oil, and you'll be amazed how much better they look. And then again, just like always, just take the dry side and wipe and buff it off. Just put it on, more or less take it right back off. That looks pretty good to me. The next thing we're going to do, you know, JD wanted me to set this thing up pretty well. So I'm going to fit the bridge a little bit better to the top. It's pretty close, but I can tell it's not perfect. So here's some 220. That's typically what I use for this. Depends how bad it is, I guess. Now, this bridge is leaning forward anyway, so I'm going to tilt it back just the tiniest amount as I sand this. This will help with the tilting. In other words, you can see perhaps that I'm putting a little more pressure on the back side. Now, you notice I'm going sideways. Everybody else in the world but me goes this way. I don't like going that way. It causes this to rock when you go that way. And even when you get one of those little tools that's supposed to help hold it flat, it doesn't work that great. You notice I'm barely moving it side to side. But by doing it this way, I have complete control over this thing, and I can control this angle perfectly. And it fits the top like a glove when I'm done. In fact, I don't think you can do it better than this. And you know, if you know anything about what they call chatter, if you try to go this way, that's all you get is chatter. You do it this way, you get a perfectly smooth, sanded surface. And you don't have to move it very far. You see there, I'm probably not moving it 1/8 of an inch. A total of 1/4 inch when you go 1/8 one way, 1/8 the other way. And then you can look at the bottom and see if it's making good contact. And it's only making good contact in the back edge of this. It's making full contact, but the front edge of this, which is, if you turn it back over, this would be the front edge, is not really making contact. It is over here, but it's not here. So we're going to keep sanding for a little while. And I'm going to put more pressure on the base leg here until we get a little bit more removed. And you can see there, the back edge of the base is grabbing, but the front edge is not. You can tell that. Now your instrument will sound better when you get this to make full contact. You get a better transfer of sound into your top. So this is important if you ask me. Sometimes you can twist like this very slightly. See how I'm twisting that? Sometimes that helps too on getting a little better contact, a little more removal. And again, the angle is the most critical thing. So I'm just ever so slightly putting a slight back angle on it. I mean, barely any. You would hardly be able to tell it. Now it's down to less than the tip of my little finger spot that's not making contact. But it's very small. Just maybe you can see it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but that little area right there. There's a teeny tiny area right here too. It looks pretty good. I think honestly there's still just the slightest amount that's not making contact, but it's very minimal. Some of the arguments I get about going this way, people say it makes it fit the top shape better. But you got to remember, these things are domed in all directions. It doesn't help the top shape any better than doing it this way. In fact, I really would argue that this is the most accurate to your top, because this is, you're shaping it exactly where it's going to set versus back and forth. The other folks that don't like this method, you can just not like it. But I'm 99.9% sure that this is the most accurate way to do this. I believe that's got it. Yep, that looks real good now. I don't see any open spots at all. I have the GHS LS250s here, and these are a really good string for toning your instrument down. In other words, if you want more lows out of it, this is probably the best string you can use to do that. I don't play these on my own mandolin only for one reason, and that is that the coating on these is softer. And you've probably seen how I play. I play really hard. I get dents in these strings. I squeeze them too tight and I get big dents in the strings. So that's the negative of it. The coating is softer. But that softer coating, or wrapping I guess I'd call it, rather than a coating. It's not a coating, it's the wrapping, the serving that goes around the string is softer. You know, I get big dents in there because of the way I squeeze. I squeeze way too hard. I know I shouldn't do that, but I do. It's probably why I have so much arthritis in my hands. Old habits are hard to break. But if you're wanting to get more lows and more woody sound out of your mandolin, I would suggest highly you try the LS250s from GHS. That's the only string, in my opinion, that will absolutely guarantee you'll get that. The rest of the strings are good, and there's a lot of good mandolin strings out there, but these actually do change the tone of your mandolin considerably. I've shown how I put strings on many times, but perhaps you can see what I'm doing here. I just hook that end on there, go up here, and on the bass side especially, all I do is just pull it around the post from the inside around the post. In other words, you're in the middle here and you go around the post this way. You go back over the top of the string that's here, and you can go around it once or twice. I usually just go around one full turn and then back another half turn around it. Go through the hole and make sure that when you poke this through the hole that you're staying above the wrappings that you've already done. In other words, you don't want to go below the wrappings, you want to stay above it. Pull this through and then just basically pull it straight up, and that pretty much locks it in. You tighten this up. Now I do this on the bass side. I don't necessarily do this on the treble side unless you go around the post many more times, because you could have some slippage on the treble side. But on the bass side you won't get any slippage. It's a very quick way to do it. Saves lots of time and it works 100%. I always cut my strings off even with the top of the post for a lot of reasons. That keeps you from poking yourself, and it keeps any extra vibration down to a very minimal amount. If you leave a lot of string up here, it can cause all kinds of sympathetic vibrations and noises. Okay, one more time I'll show you how I do that again. Hook the string on there, bring it up here around the end of the post like this. Go around it once and then about another half turn around, back through the post, above the strings that you've already wrapped. Lift it straight up, tighten it down, you're good to go. It will not slip, I promise you, if you do it right. This has the added benefit that you're wrapping down the post just like you're supposed to. And so in other words, the string is coming around the bottom of the post, and that's what you want. That's how I put on the bass side. The treble side, I can do that way, but if I do, I wrap it around the post at least 2.5 times, not just 1.5, a minimum of 2.5. But typically I don't do the treble side that way. Typically I just take the treble side and make a little bit of a loop here. I go ahead and go through the hole like this, make a loop that goes back over to about where the peg on the opposite side is. Then I come back around the outside of the peg like this, and I come under the string, and then I just pull it tight like so. Then I lift up like this, and then this string here locks this in. It cannot come out. And now this will require a little bit of winding, and you could potentially use a string winder now. I never do because it's not that much winding, but you'll have more turns this way. The other way, you're tight almost instantly. So you definitely don't need a string winder on that side. You know, this way I know it's not going to come loose on a customer. If I was on stage and in a hurry, I'd probably just wrap it twice and pull it up tight like I normally do on the other side. You know, you'd be ready to go again if you broke a string on stage. You'd be ready to go really fast. But since I'm not on stage and I'm not in a hurry, this is the better way, I think, to do the treble side. One more time on the treble side here. You go up through the middle, you go from the inside out like this. Then you go around the end of the post like so, under the string. And you pull it up tight. Then you lift it up, lift it up on this string here. You just lift it up tight like that. Now this string is wrapped around this vertical, and it cannot slip. And then as you tighten it up, then the string is, wrapped around this. It cannot slip back out. You can control how much of a loop you leave in this and cut down your winding a little bit. And that's not a bad thing. And you want to make sure your string is always winding down the post. For those of you who are not sure why you want it winding down the post, it's all purely leverage. The closer you are to the base of the post, the stronger that post is. And the higher up you are, the more leverage the string has to pull the post back. And you don't want that. When I put these on my bench, I like to get the peg head over here to the edge where my hand has room to rotate like this. Typically, as I told you already, I just cut these off right at the top of the post. But in this case, I'm going to show you how to break these off in just a very quick motion. Now, I don't do this except like if I was on stage, I might do this. You just take the string, you bend the loop like so, and you bring that loop right back on itself like that. Perhaps you can see how tight the loop is there. I'm bringing it right back to itself. Then you just pull past that, and it makes a kink in the string right there, a very tight kink in the string when you pull that loop past. Then you can break it right back, bring it right back out like that, and break the string right off. Now, that leaves a long stub here, but if you're on stage, who cares, I don't particularly recommend this for normal, but if you're on stage or you're in a hurry for some reason in the middle of a jam or something, then yeah, just do it like that. Break the string off. It's just one, and all the strings work that way. You bring it up, make that loop, pull a real tight kink in it, back it off, it breaks the string right off. All right, so I'll just demo that one more time about breaking the string off. First of all, I'll put the string on here like I have been doing. Go back under here, pull this up tight, then go ahead and tighten the string down first. You want to get at least some tension on the string before you do the break off. So you just make a loop like this, bring the loop up and pull it up tight. Now there's a kink there where that loop was. You just bring it back straight. And typically you don't have to even do it more than once and it breaks right off. Now it leaves a stub up there like that. I don't like the stub. In this case, because I'm doing this on my bench and I've got my pliers handy here, I'm just going to bring this up and cut it off smooth again. But you can always do that later. If you're in a hurry, that's a good way to break your string off. And it'll break it off even on the biggest string. It'll do that. Another thing I thought I would show you is how you put one of these straps on your mandolin. You would think you would just go in like this, and that would be wrong. You have to turn the leather, the side you want out, you have to turn that in first, like this. And then it'll go in here like so, and now it's perfect, see? So you just have to do it that way to get this to work. So now you can see the strap is perfectly straight all the way through. And of course then the strap would be connected back here however you want. JD left it unhooked, and he usually unhooks it and then wraps it around himself and hooks it back in, which is his preference. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. A long time ago I put felt under here. I recommend that. There's already some leather under here, and if you don't have leather there, you could put felt there also. And then you put that up there, and then that felt keeps any vibration down to a minimal back here. Okay, I've got to just tune it up now, and then we'll play it for you. Got the mandolin tuned up, and as I was playing it here a little bit, I'm feeling a little bit of corners sticking up, so I'm just going to take, there's a smooth edge of this file, I'll put that against kind of like the string there, just in case I hit the string, but I don't think I will. And then I'll just knock just the tip corner of these off very carefully. That way you just don't feel that. And I'll do the same thing on the base side here. I believe we're ready to go. Now the bridge honestly is pulled forward a little bit again, so I'm going to straighten it back up. If you're not used to doing this, you could cause that to collapse and fall over on you, so you need to be careful. It's pretty straight. It's not perfectly straight. Quite honestly, it's been in that position for many years, and it's hard to get them back up perfect. But it's not bad. It's better than it was. And I'm double check my tuning now that I messed with that. More importantly, I'm also going to check the intonation. So here's the G. Pretty darn close. Pretty close. Okay, so let's play that same little tune for you now so you can kind of hear a difference. Well, my friends, that's going to conclude the setup of this Kentucky mandolin. I hope JD Fritchie is happy with the job I did. By the way, in case you're wondering what the action's like, here we are at the 12th fret, I think, something like that. Yep, that's the 12th fret there, the double dots. Holds the pick. You can't get it much lower than that. Doesn't seem to buzz at all. Can't do much better than that. Easy on your fingers. Got a nice loud clear tone. You know, mandolin strings for me, I like them better after they're played in. After they, a couple weeks old actually is when they start to sound the best, I think. I hope you picked up some tips on the setup of the mandolin there, some of the fine points, and especially about some tips that I don't think I've ever shared before about breaking those strings off if you're in a hurry. It's by far the easiest way to do it, and get you right back into playing. So thank you so much for watching. If you're not yet subscribed, get busy.